Oh my goodness, everyone. It is another brand new episode of Because Cannabis from Wayward Media, wayward.media. If you're nasty on your interwebs, that's where you go to check out all the good stuff, all the good shows that are happening on Wayward Media every single Wednesday. You get to join us here on YouTube. That's where we'll be every single Wednesday, 4:20 p.m. 4:20 p.m. is when a brand new show of Because Cannabis drops. And then the following day, anywhere you listen to podcasts, I prefer Spotify. Go check us out there. Video podcasts on Spotify as well. The following day, anywhere you listen to audio podcasts, you will find Because Cannabis. That's my usual intro. Oh, what did I forget? At MeetWM, MEETWM. That is where you follow the show socially. Dustin Kava, how you doing today, man?
It's good to see you. It almost seems like it's been a month since the 420 episode, but it has only been a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of time. If you didn't check it out, go back probably a couple of weeks now. Go back and find our 420 special. We spent live on this podcast 4 hours, 20 minutes straight. 13 different people joined us from all over the country during that show to talk about cannabis, how they were celebrating the holiday. So many great people, so many new people that we had not met before. Several of them will be coming up, having longer conversations. That was the weirdest part about having all those people together, Dustin, on a 4-hour show. You think I'm doing a live stream for 4 hours and 20 minutes, which is so daunting when we get ready to start it. How are we going to sit here and talk into this microphone, stare at this camera? How are we going to entertain ourselves, let alone you who is listening right now? How am I going to entertain you for that long? Yet at the end of the day, we did not have enough time to get to know them. It felt like 10 minutes next, 10 minutes next, 10 minutes next.
It really was. It felt like a speed dating scenario, but with cannabis users and professionals. It was definitely interesting.
Weed dating scenario, if one will say. I'm not in the dating scenario anymore, Dustin, and I'm glad for that. I don't have to go through that. Happily married a very long time. Shout out to my wife, who's probably listening somewhere right now. She doesn't listen. I'm just kidding. She's never heard a single word I said. Didn't listen to me when I talk here or on the air. But that's not the point. The point is I don't have to date. I don't have to do those things. I'm very happy. But I do got to do some of the things. Like I got to go buy jewelry sometimes, right? I got to go to the jewelry store. I got to buy those things. I'm not very good. One of the things I always hear, I listen to a lot of sports talk radio, right? I always hear on there is the jewelry stores are all about you don't got to fuss when you come in here. We're going to leave you alone. We're not going to hound you. Like they're trying to sell the shopping experience. Do you have a place or do you have a thing, Dustin, that you buy? Like the old adage, I remember like growing up when I was a young man, when I was not as confident and secure in myself, when I was in the dating scene, I was uncomfortable purchasing tampons at the register. But now 20 years in, I have 3 daughters. I'll go up with a cart of tampons. I'm like, bro, put them all in, put them on them. Yeah, they're all going there. It doesn't matter. Like zero concern in the world to stock up on any sort of hygiene products in any way, shape or form. Is there anything that you go shopping for, Dustin, that makes you like uncomfortable or awkward, or you got to hide your face within your amount of hair that you have?
I don't, it's not an item. I just think all stores fucking suck. And I really, really don't like being in them, you know? So there's this anxiety there. That's just like, I think my favorite store is a fucking head shop. And so, you know, and even
head shops have that weirdness sometimes.
Yeah, you know, they really do. Certainly ones who don't get it and don't understand the culture. It's definitely, you know, you walk in and you can almost immediately feel the vibe. But other than that, like, no, just, you know, Walmart, I just fucking hate going in anything like that. Crazy.
All right. Well, shopping aside, you actually have some sort of phobia related to that. I do have a product. It doesn't matter where I'm buying it. In fact, a place like Walmart or Target or any sort of unassisted shopping, I feel a little bit better than when I go to, say, a fancy store to purchase said product. You know, Dustin, I dabble. I dabble in a lot of things, right? And, you know, I dabble with hopes of fame and stardom. So your boy's been on the silver screen a few times in the background and maybe 1 or 2 lines spoken now and then. But I have to work very hard to maintain this slightly above average visage, Dustin. And in order to do that, I have to buy a tremendous amount of makeup and eye products and face products. Literally, in the bathroom is an American Psycho Christian Bale level worthy of products to go through, way more than what my wife has there, way more than what my wife and my high school daughter combined have. But I feel weird buying like eyeliner to help like my wrinkles go away and such. And I know like there's Facebook ads for all like man versions of eye cream. Like we're just tough, brawny dudes and we're selling you eye cream. But you know, it's the same product as in the dainty one you buy at the makeup store. But I feel weird buying makeup and then saying it's for me. I'm like, I just got to get rid of like right now. I'm a little red. I wish I could have like give a little color here before I went on screen. I don't know. It's what I do. It's what I like. I feel like it's a totally natural thing. And if I felt like it was for my wife, I'd be totally okay with it. But there are just moments and times when I don't really know if I'm comfortable in that scenario. And our guest today, Chad Price, CEO of Life Grows Green. Chad, you are someone, I got to be honest, you look a little alpha to me, right? You got the football background, you got the military background. What makes you uncomfortable? Is there like spiders or bugs? Is it well, probably not public speaking? What makes Chad Price, CEO of Life Goes Green, with all this background of entrepreneurship and putting yourself out there and selling gym equipment, what makes you go, oh, I don't want to be here. I just really don't want to be here right now.
I'm right there with Dustin. It's the grocery store. It's literally any store. When I walk into a store, I just can't help but feel like I'm being sold something I don't want to buy. So it's like I'm much more comfortable shopping online than I am going to any store and getting anything.
It's interesting. You know, it's funny. I get it though. Like when you're there and you see, for example, when you see a good BOGO or marketing deal or branding concept, do you sometimes, even though you know they're trying to sell you stuff, do you step back as someone who has put time and effort into marketing and creating brands in respect? Like, I don't want to be here, but damn, that's a great idea.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's part of it as well. When I go, I can't help but see like everyone's intention to sell me something. So it's almost like seeing the matrix for what it really is. It's like, okay, I know that corner piece that you put there was to get me to buy this, and I don't want to participate in this right now. So yeah, no, it's a good and a bad thing. And I do go and I like to study that from time to time, but when I'm personally trying to get something that I need, I feel like it's such a hindrance to my life. And I try to avoid it. Send my girlfriend if I can.
Gosh, yeah, I think about those end caps. They really, they get me. Pack them high and watch them fly. You know, like
I spent 2 decades, like literally prior to this illustrious career I have now, writing planograms for end caps. Like I was a plan writer for multiple companies, creating those, thinking about what products go up high, when to double up the product, how often, merching, facing, and fronting, like all of these things. Like those are skill sets. This is how hardcore it is. Like when you walk through the store, if you see like a gap in a product, you like pull it up front and kind of help them out. Like, come on, man.
Face it. I always flip them and face everything.
Yeah, it's all striped. This LaCroix sideways. I'm like, come on, man. Turn the label. Labels front, people. Give the label up front. Anyway, Chad Price, CEO, Life Grows Green. Thank you for joining us here on the Because Cannabis podcast. Looking forward to getting to know you and a little bit about what you have done in your past. And, if you go check you out at Life Goes Green, one of the websites there, if you go to follow you on LinkedIn and Chad Price, you got a history of kind of entrepreneurship, starting with Kettlebell Kings, maybe actually before that, but that was kind of one that seemed to elevate you. And now you're getting into Life Goes Green, getting into kind of the wellness space, the holistic wellness space, which I guess kind of has synergy with kind of kettlebells and those other aspects. Just real quick, Chad, because obviously we're terrible about introducing guests. We want to know their fears before we tell their bio. Just give us a couple quick minutes about your history and background and kind of what you've done, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I started, I'm from a small town here in Texas, grew up, outside of Houston, played every sport under the sun growing up, was pretty kind of sport oriented, if you will, when I was a younger child. And then that culminated in me getting a scholarship to Rice University in Houston, where I played football. Graduated from there, went to corporate America 4 or 5 years, and then decided, corporate America really wasn't kind of my long-term fit for my personality. I'd always wanted to be a part of like a good operation, a big team, kind of more of a competitive business environment similar to my competitive sports career. I wanted to try to find that once I got out of school. And after 4 or 5 years in corporate America, I realized it might be better for me to just design that myself and kind of start one from scratch. And I met with a couple of my buddies who had talked about starting businesses before. And we ended up not really knowing what business it was we wanted to start, but more of we want to start kind of an e-commerce brand and sell things online to people and really build a community around a specific product. At the time, for me, that looked like a bunch of different things, but it kind of landed on fitness because of my background and because of the background of my partners as well.
Yeah.
And that's probably my most notable company, which is Kettlebell Kings. But I've started several other companies. I owned a nail salon for 8 years. We owned another fitness company. And now over the past couple of years, I've started this company, Life Grows Green, which it sells hemp and, CBD products and things like that. But I think it's more of a natural product and a natural lifestyle. So the things that I've learned and kind of taken from building a fitness community kind of brought me here to try to bring that same level of awareness and quality and community building kind of exercise to the hemp and the cannabis community and people who want to rather have natural products and avoid, pharmaceutical solutions for everything.
Dustin, I think we have bad mics. You're muted there, sir.
Your entrepreneurial spirit does go much further back, though. I remember when I was doing some research, I came across that your aunt was an entrepreneur, kind of a jewelry store owner, and just some of the takes you took from experiencing that at such a young age. And I could see in each of your companies how that transferred. Even going to school to be an athlete and being an athlete in school. I mean, at the end of it all, you always seem to have this business underpinning with things. I'd love to hear more about that experience with your aunt and kind of how that helped shape you.
Yeah, she would be like, yeah, see, I told you so, Chad, right now. But yeah, no, I think it is a good example because, ever since I was young, I've always kind of been a person to try to get out there and have a side job, try to figure out a way to earn enough resources to do what I want to do. If my parents told me no to something, I would go try to find a way to get the money to get it myself. I've always just kind of had that spirit. But even, when I was younger, I knew I wanted to kind of start something that I would be personally proud of or be a part of something that I'd be proud of. And I think that's where that kind of spirit comes from. Working with my aunt, going to support her in her jewelry business and going to, work events with her when I was 13, 14, 15 years old and seeing, someone buy a 15-cent ring for $20, that was eye-opening for me. I was like, okay, you can really change, you can change your life if you brand things correctly. If you kind of package things in a way that people want to consume it. And, my parents were more, let's say, traditional kind of employee for their careers. And I had never really seen someone take that kind of leap in our family, if you will. And so that, yeah, I think that definitely kind of inspired me to at least know it was possible and, see someone that that you actually know can ask personal questions and relate to doing something that you feel like you can either do just as good as or improve upon. I think that helps any kind of kid or aspiring person kind of push to the next level, if you will.
Yeah, it's interesting what happens. It's though a lot of times people say maybe emulate their family or something like that, and it ends up not going the right way. So it's really good then that you ended up having kind of that positive role model with that aspect. You mentioned something as you were talking though about how a good brand kind of can offset some of the other things you're doing with your company. And Dustin and I, we've talked to and run into a lot of people who are kind of getting started on their entrepreneur journey, or they want to create a company and they have those very same words. They come and they say, look, I got a strong brand. They may have a great color, maybe even a wonderful logo. They have all these pieces put into place, but yet infrastructure, maybe even the product itself. I've heard a lot of brand pitches that I go after even 5-6 minutes of selling me on who they are, which is great. I love a good story. I love a good why. We know that why is important, the why you. I love those aspects. They'll have the why, they'll have the brand, they'll have the concept. But literally, there is nothing. It is surface level at best in that concept. And I see, or I hear and fear, maybe sometimes with young entrepreneurs and maybe even older, you get that a lot of times. They build the brand, they build the concept, but the product or the tax bills or any of these other, financial employee management, they don't know how to work with people, seem to be the ones that run into their way more often than not. And so you're someone who's been out there, you've been working on multiple different companies. We'll dig into a little bit of Kettlebell Kings and definitely talk some Life Goes Green and what you're doing with those products in a minute. But when you have like advice to get to these people who are out there who have great brands, I know, but don't have strong products, but they always tell me that same message. The brand sells, the brand sells. So I got to have with the brand. But I think ultimately, maybe your aunt might say, like, you got to have good jewelry too. How's that balance? Like, what have you found in creating companies, and maybe with Kettlebell Kings or Life Goes Green, maybe in your own examples? Do you start with the brand? Have you done that and built company? Or are you a person who creates company first? Just a little bit about company creation, and then maybe advice for someone who's in that same position with a great brand, but not a lot underneath them.
I mean, I think you hit it on the head. When you're talking about a brand, I think that does need to represent a service that you can be proud of. So I look at them kind of tied together, and I don't think most people do nowadays. I think a lot of people think, it's a cool brand. It doesn't have to have quality products. That's not necessarily how I would build my company. So even, if you're using Kettlebell Kings, for example, I think the brand, the name in itself speaks to what the brand is. It speaks to the credibility of that particular kettlebell company. It speaks to kind of the quality or the expectation or the level of care and kind of touch that we put on the products that we want to put together. So I understand what you're saying. That's not necessarily how I look at it, just because I think that comes from my background in sports. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when you start, I don't think that everyone should necessarily start a company in the space that they want when they officially want to go that way. I think it's better to work for companies and kind of earn your stripes in that field, if you will, so that when you're starting that you can compete on a high level. Because at the end of the day, I think if you can't compete on a high level as a business, you're supposed to go out of business. I don't think that you're supposed to just be in business just to be in business. I think if you're a bad business, it's better for the economy and it's better for everyone else for you to go out of business and allow somebody else to have those opportunities. And from my background in sports, it's easy for me to look at it that way. The NBA, the NFL, they cycle through players for a reason. And that's the same way that I look at business. If I can't compete on that top level, then I'm not even going to really try to worry or concern myself with how cool the brand is on the ground.
No, but
I have to ask. Oh, Dustin, hold on a second. I have to ask. I'm dying to know. I know what makes good cannabis. What makes a good kettlebell? Like, what makes a good kettlebell? Is it the feel? Is it the weight? Like, I'm at kettlebellkings.com right now. Look at the website. What makes a good kettlebell over a bad Walmart kettlebell? I have to know. Like, I know what makes cannabis. I've never delved into the kettlebell world.
Well, I think it's a good example. I think when you really look at it, it's a commodity, right? Like, you're looking at a piece of iron that is coated with something to protect that piece of iron for a long period of time. You can adjust the shapes and the ergonomics as much as you want to, but you're talking about a millimeter here, a millimeter there. There's not a lot to that. What I try to design in any company that I'm a part of or associated with is more of an agreed upon standard and try to improve upon that. So I'm going to take the community and I'm going to try to pull experts from the community and almost form a smaller focus group or a panel of experts that can help tell me, what do you guys think is the perfect design? And then I'll try to make iterations to lean somewhere towards what, is a general consensus amongst that panel. But at the end of the day, it can only be so many different shapes and sizes. So when I talk about being competitive, I also mean the things that you get associated with the brand. So it's not just the product itself. It could be the perfect kettlebell and someone else can make the perfect kettlebell, but then why else would you be associated with us? What information are you getting? How are we supplementing this into the rest of your life, so you're able to use this not just as a kettlebell, but as a tool to achieve whatever goal you have. For us, that would look like, some people are using this particular tool because they're recovering from therapy. Other people are using it because they want, to be the first true, kettlebell bodybuilder. Well, those are two different types of kind of ideas or strategies around the same product. But we can tie those groups together and we can support the organizations that are associated with these types of groups. Even if they're not profitable exercises, they go a long way with the credibility of the brand and the kind of the credibility of the culture and the goal that you're trying to establish as being the quote unquote kings of that expertise.
I noticed two things that you talked about almost immediately. The first one is bringing upon experts to kind of help see you through. But really my take on that is surrounding yourself with a team. And I can see a lot of the pulling of that from the athletic world where, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter what game you're playing. That team that you've set up prior to even picking the game you're going to play makes all the difference. And when I was listening to things about Kettlebell Kings and stuff, you guys set up your team before you ever even knew what you were going to sell or what product you were going to do. And I think that actually speaks to me about some of the proper ways to go about things. Sometimes it's not just, I have this great idea. It is really, who can I surround myself with that can help me see that goal in full effect, that can help me gain that traction every week and stuff like that. And I just think that that's a neat process on how it came about with Kettlebell Kings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes from my background in sports for sure. You know, when you go to college, you're pulling kids from all around the country to, you know, come play together to try to achieve wins. And not just one college is doing that, but hundreds of colleges are doing that across the country. So I think the idea of putting together groups of individuals who want to share some common goal and finding a common theme amongst those groups that, you know, we can all fight for. It's almost like, you know, we can't be perfect individuals, but we can try to create the perfect kettlebell, try to create the perfect kettlebell experience, try to create the kettlebell, you know, the perfect kettlebell workouts. And I think those types of concepts, they go a long way with camaraderie and brand building. Once you can kind of build that spark in the community and everyone knows that your intentions are strictly about that and the purity of that, you know, I think that kind of speaks for itself and the fire continues to spread.
When you think about employees or think about your team that you're building, how important is it for them to actually have a passion for the product? In the cannabis industry, there are a hell of a lot of good accountants that I don't necessarily think need to smoke weed in order to be a good accountant. And that transpires through a lot of facets of the industry. But when it comes to, say, any of the businesses that you have started, does passion trump over specializing in something? Or, you know, you actually, like, when you're seeking out an additional team member, what are some of those traits that you're kind of looking for?
I mean, I think you have different roles for, you know, different team members. You know, I am fortunate enough to have played on large football teams my whole life. So I understand the different personality types, and, you know, everyone might not be as committed as you to your, you know, specific workouts or to running or to, you know, lifting, whatever that may be. So I'm very used to working with different perspectives, different motivations and things like that from my background in sports. So I don't necessarily go out and think that you have to smoke cannabis to work at a cannabis company. I think you have to respect the culture that's recreated. You know, I think you have to respect the kind of the mission of the team. If you don't respect that, I don't think this is the place for you. But as long as you're open-minded to that concept, you know, I think it's fair game. I more look for people who want to get the job done and kind of value pushing the team along and achieving objectives. You know, part of my background is in construction as well. So I look at a lot of things that's like construction, like, did we finish the house or not? And if we're not finished with the house, what are we talking about? Why are we bickering amongst ourselves? Let's go finish building the house. And so that's how I try to treat the projects and break things up like that for the teams I build.
Well, you transitioned into cannabis a little bit, so let's keep going there. So you have, you know, we're here because cannabis on Wayward Media, wayward.media. Please hit that subscribe button if you're listening to us on YouTube, or follow us on audio. I'd appreciate that. So you have Life Goes Green, lifegoesgreen.com, you know, and you were working with Kettlebell Kings, had success. Let's be real. Let's be super honest. There are about as many CBD companies these days as there are, I don't know, kettlebell companies. Probably way more CBD companies than there are gym equipment companies. And so it seems like a popular thing for people to get into. And so you have to find a way. If you're going to get into this space, you have to find a way to both differentiate, easy for me to say, to make yourself stand out against your competitors. You have to find a way to have a product that is both acceptable by the consumers, by of varying ages. You have to find a way into this very crowded marketplace. So when you're looking at this, when you're looking at an opportunity, let's start there. When you say, hey, I want to get into this space, and then you just Google CBD companies, it's an endless list. So why? I mean, why do it?
Yeah.
Why get into, I mean, I feel like, and I don't know enough about gym equipment, but there's a lot of different equipment out there in these days, and they're always trying to find new technological advancements to stand out and such. And CBD is that way. It's just a product. And so people are always processing it. But why get into this super crowded field that has all these legality issues? There's no one's regulating kettlebell equipment on a state by state level. No one's measuring you and busting you and taking you to jail if you have too much weight in a kettlebell versus not. Why get into this very complicated industry?
I mean, I think I didn't realize it when I started that, you know, my businesses were part of kind of my personal passions. But the more I got into my fitness company, the more I realized, like, hey, some of these things, like, if I personally have a passion for it, I will drive the company further, and, you know, it will move a lot further overall. So for me, you know, it's not just a passion project. You know, I see myself as an advocate for people who don't have anyone fighting for them. You know, even with the fitness company, it's not that different. You know, when we first started the kettlebell company, people were like, why would you try to sell kettlebells? You know how many kettlebells companies that are out there, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but I think there's an idea to trying to create a world that does it right. And I think that's the types of companies that I try to set up. You know, if there's going to be, you know, I try not to categorize us as a quote unquote CBD company. I think that's a very, very narrow classification. But if there is going to be a company in that space, you know, I want to set that example. And I think that this has been a very kind of a space that's been stigmatized for way too long. You know, I want to bring it mainstream. I want to bring every single person that's a doubter to a more safer space where they transition into really appreciating and understanding natural products, and the people that have chosen to use natural products for, you know, hundreds of thousands of years, and not necessarily concern myself with all of the, let's say, the competition and the trending brands, if you will. You know, I don't think a lot of those people are going to survive in the long run.
Do you think that your messaging has been defined from that athletic in the wellness state from prior? Do you think that, God, how do I word this in a better way? I don't even know, but in certain capacities, I do see a lot of that same messaging. I don't think necessarily that you're really talking to a different person with the kettlebell company than you are with Life Grows Green. I think in a lot of ways, there's a ton of crossover in terms of how they look at their wellness routine, how they see certain things as tools towards that wellness routine, and just the habits behind them. So that's where my question lies. Is it a lot of the same messaging, or did you really have to kind of dive back into something in a different way and kind of reteach yourself wellness because of it?
I mean, for me personally, it is kind of, it's both. You know, I think when you're trying to build a community of people, it's, for me, a lot more positive communities than negative community. You know, I don't want to build a community of people who are doing something to harm themselves or to harm others. And so when I'm trying to do that, I want to find people who appreciate these particular types of products. And it's not even the types of products that are currently available. It's any of the products that fit that same kind of core concept of natural, plant derived, or organic as possible, least processed as possible. You know, the concepts of really trying to use natural supplements versus pharmaceutical solutions as frequently as possible. And so that's really what I'm trying to build. Everything for me really comes from my competitive background, because I see business as competitive. So I'm trying to take over a space in a way that I can stand on and kind of look back and say, you know, this is the right way to do it. So I not just want, you know, the fans and the customers to see that. I want to set that standard for governments. I want to set that standard for other companies in the space. So, you know, when I look at advocacy and the business I'm trying to build, I really am looking at it as like a digital reputation, if you will, of the company. And that's the biggest thing for me.
It's interesting. And I want to talk. Every time I get an athlete on here, I feel like I have to ask them this question. So we're talking with Chad Price, chadprice.com, lifegrowsgreen.com. You can follow him Twitter, Instagram, real Chad Price as well. Make sure you check those out. Support our guests on there. You know, you have an athletic background, did a stint in the arena football. You know, you talked about that competitive spirit, you know, not that long ago. It's taken till 2023. We just had, for example, the NBA has finally decided to stop testing for cannabis. We're seeing other organizations relax their testing on cannabis, particularly these athletes who live in adult use states. Like, it's very confusing, and so, but what happens, for example, I am we're here in Northeast Ohio, Chad. I'm a diehard Cleveland Browns fans. Keep your comments to yourself. I have to give that out for everyone. And so I listen to a lot of sports talk radio, and anytime, and we had a really heavy stint here with Josh Gordon and his cannabis stuff and whatnot. Anytime cannabis comes up to the traditional sports talk person, hosty guy and fan, it becomes the very stereotypical stoner type thing. Yet on an athletic level, and you've seen this already, we've seen some other sports, fighting, for example, there's a lot of, CBD and THC, especially gummies and mixed martial arts and whatnot. And you're seeing more acceptance. And I think players have used it for both therapeutic levels and relaxation. Just two things, like in the past, have you seen or were you surprised in cannabis usage in sports? I'm always kind of surprised a little bit about it, especially before. I think it's much easier now. And do you think it makes sense? Are you okay? Are you comfortable? Obviously, I'm thinking you are, but with kind of the relaxing of the rules, that athletes getting into ownership of cannabis companies seem to be the rage. Just kind of that marriage, which always seemed so separate. But since they're combining it, it's happening. But I feel like the fans and the media, they're still not down, right? It's a weird story article for me sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think natural products, I don't think should be regulated as much as they are. So, I'm more of some people would call that kind of anarchy, but I don't think it's an anarchy to say, I'm going to grow this plant and smoke it.
No, it is the least punk rock thing ever is I'm going to grow a plant.
Yeah, I don't think that's anarchy, but some people would classify that as anarchy. But
it is so crazy.
If you're allowing these same people to drink alcohol, to use, creatine, to use basically any type of supplement to do anything, then I don't think you should limit some of them because there's a social stigma around it. If there were some type of proven science that alcohol is good and cannabis is bad, then sure, let's discuss that conversation. But I think we all know that the number one problem in college, the number one drug in college that is overused and kind of misused is alcohol. It's not cannabis. So I look at that as another step towards, more freedom. It was in college for me. I never smoked when I was in college. You got drug tested, you play sports, but I know a lot of my teammates did. And I know they weren't doing it because they were trying to be bad people and they wanted to sit on the couch and eat potato chips all day. I know that wasn't the reason that they were smoking. It was it was for anxiety. It was for pain. It was for dealing with the struggles of trying to get through a difficult time. And if some people use cannabis, some people use a drink of wine, some people use Advil. To me, I don't have a problem with any of those. I think they're well within their rights as a human to try to live a positive experience here as good as possible. So
I'm actually thinking back to something that we talked about before, and I'm curious at how important it is to have a competitor. I mean, if you were the first to market something, is it important to have a competitor? To me, I need a competitor to help push me. I like not always focusing on what the other person's doing, but I like that back and forth. If I excel at something and then I push them, then they excel at something and they push me. And it's that is where I find the most growth within my own companies. And so I'm just curious at how you see a competitor.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I am proud to copy a competitor, if you will. When I see someone doing something right, I feel like it's just like sports. If someone goes and you see LeBron go to the hole and dunk on someone with two hands, yes, I want to do that. Like, that is exactly what I want to do.
Exactly.
I don't want to do I'm just going to do it one hand. No, I want to do it just like that, and then I'll start doing it with my little flares. But I think trying to look at the competitive playing field and learning from it is just a part of sports. When you're watching film, that's exactly what you're doing. When you're watching a game, trying to get better at anything, you always aspire to be like something before you actually get there. And I think that's what business is. So there are companies that do certain traits better than what you do them, I think you should aspire to try to get those traits into your company and, try to excel and provide a better service for your customers. I also think you're doing a disservice if you're not doing that for your customers. I'm really big on trying to give the customers as big of positive experience as they can. At the end of the day, no one has to buy anything from you. So they're buying a positive experience. No one wants to buy a problem. And if they're buying a problem that, I think you're supposed to go out of business as a company. I think every company that sells you problems should go out of business. And usually they do unless the government saves them. But, I think that's just the way of the world.
I think it falls in line a lot with understanding the underlying infrastructure too. It's this idea that, hey, I had a shop and customers came in, and it's just because I had that store didn't mean that was able to happen. There still had to be a road laid by the city. There still had to be electricity. There still had to be all this other infrastructure just to allow me to do the basics. Even when running an online business, I still think of all that infrastructure between the servers and the data centers, everything to make that an opportunity for me. And so to me, that's what I translate to the customer. Then again, it's that notion of how thankful I am that not only can I provide this better service, but that all of the infrastructure around it allowed you to get to me, to get to that point to where I could provide that. And I think that's pretty powerful. Yeah,
it's that you could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with me type of mentality. And I think when you appreciate that as a business owner, your customers see that, and it kind of seeps into every way in every single thing that you do. I was telling you guys, I owned a nail salon for 8 years, and that was a totally different concept than trying to sell kettlebells and selling fitness. Talking to people, the experience you create is a totally different thing. But once you get the experience right, you literally see the appreciation from people, even though, I'm not the person doing the nails, but I'm the person that sets the experience for, a positive experience that brings positivity to someone's life. So yes, they pay for a set of nails, but they also get something that makes them feel good when they can go home at night, and, it gives them a little bit more energy to get through the day and get through the next day.
Much like a lavender fields bath bomb would from lifegrowsgreen.com. I got to say, I'm looking through the products, Chad. I'm on lifegrowsgreen.com right now, lifegrowsgreen.com. And when I think of, and I don't mean to mislabel you a CBD company, but I liked I like how I throw that out there sometimes to see how guests go. Just kidding. I just messed that up. Anyway, I like how when you go to this company and when you start to think of hemp derived products, you think of a lot of different types of consumables, which immediately get into the consumables that I would say try to their best to replicate THC, right? I'm going to give you a cart that's not THC, but wink, wink, wink. It's kind of that. But your product page here at Life Goes Green is full of a variety of things, which when you mentioned working at a nail salon, talking an experience, you have these massage oils, you have these honeys, you have peanut butters, you have protein powders, you have all these things, these oils. Not a lot of products that are typically associated with what I think the modern consumer thinks of hemp-derived products as a way to find and emulate a legal high, so to speak. You have face masks, like hemp face masks. Like they're really built around lifestyle care, right? Like I probably could use a face mask on my wrinkles here. Right? Is that what I'm leaking? Is that what I need? Do I need a hemp? That's totally distracted. Do I need a hemp face mask to get rid of some of these 50-year-old wrinkles that are burgeoning on my face?
We can definitely get you hooked up with that.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I've never worn a face mask in my entire life. Is that weird? Like, I feel like of all the issues with my face and like products, I've never actually laid a face mask on my face before.
You are definitely missing out. So I will say this: the one thing about owning a salon is self-care. My mind changed on self-care. So I never got a pedicure, never wore a face mask, never did any of that stuff before I did. And now that that's one of the things I can appreciate and kind of see other people's value in it. I have buddies who I play football with who would come in and get their nails painted and things like that. So it's definitely different times we live in where self-care is important.
I feel that's something, by the way, that should have never, like, having good, clean nails and toenails is something that weirdly got genderized that should not have ever been. But you're right. It's much more acceptable to do that. Like, I've had a good pedicure, man. It's like walking on clouds when you're done. Like, just shut up. I'll take it all day long, get my toes and feet done. But I like your products. And so was that I'm distracted. Was that kind of a thought though, is you didn't want to be a CBD company. You wanted to put out these wellness experiences, premium hemp capsules with turmeric. I mean, come on, you got all these really kind of products focused on really general health without going that line. Is that kind of your goal in the product launches? Do you have different things? Let's just talk about kind of your launch product selection and what you're doing to Life Goes Green and the thought behind the different types of bath bombs and face masks and self-care.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think when we started, that's more of a sampling of products to kind of give at least a general baseline for what we're trying to build. We probably have another 30 products in the pipeline right now. Everything from glassware to sheets. I think you nailed it when you said kind of it's really a lifestyle product brand. So anything that you use that you can replace with something that's made naturally from a natural product, you name it, we're trying to make it. I don't really look or like to be kind of tied down to a specific product. I don't think we're making like, oh, this is the new, version of CBD or the new version of THC. I'm trying to go out and I'm trying to source the highest quality products that I can find available anywhere in the world for whatever it is. And for a lot of that, it looks like, the CBD products right now because that's trending. But, as we evolve and the community grows, I'll keep taking the feedback and kind of continue the new product development and bring out more products as we go along.
I think that research and development on those is a good job.
Couple
face masks twice a week. I test it, honey. Like, don't.
It's interesting you say that because we had a couple breakouts and rashes going through that, so it might not be such a good job.
Quality control there.
Yeah,
we have amazing looking skin chats. I'm going to say it's working. It is working for you.
Thank you. It's all thanks to the face mask.
That's what I'm jealous. I fight these wrinkles all day long. I think it's interesting. I'll tell you, I am someone once I'm into these products, but I've never really got into until about the last 6 months to a year. And a lot of it's from meeting guests on the show into using first CBD and now even into THC infused topicals. I want to talk topicals for a second. Dustin, I know you've been on them for a while. Patients, I think when people think of medical marijuana patients, we're in Ohio, we're a patient. You're down in Texas, so you're a medical state, right? And so when people here in Ohio, very conservative, when they picture someone getting their medical card, they picture like 100 Dustins outside the door, just the stereotypical, I love you, Dustin, stereotypical stoner lined up, needing my weed, bro, get me away. Yeah. Like, right, that's what they picture. Like, they just want it. It's what the same as the sports talk show hosts do. And even myself, someone who has been a longtime advocate and consumer and smoking it like you got it, but I didn't get into the topicals. I'm like, who wants to put weed cream on them? I hurt myself, right? I hurt myself. I got into, thanks because I know a ton of people, some CBD, a heavy, like you got a nice 400 milligram, like a CBD sports cream. I now go through I'm probably addicted to it. Like I go through a bottle all the time. I find it to be work both heavy. I get heavy tennis elbow. I got some Achilles stuff. It goes on there and it's amazing. And so I think that is, and I'm wondering how you see like kind of the future of these products, like these topicals, looking at things in capsules, like it really seems to have changed even in this marketplace. Have people been surprised about like using products in the roll-ons, or people asking you like, hey, where's your stuff to get high? Is that something that is this effort to put out there, these type of lifestyle topical products? Just curious on topicals in general, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's always been, you can think back to the first groups of men having some type of ointment that you put on things, and they weren't what we traditionally put on, when you think of going to Walgreens or CVS right now. So natural supplements, natural ointments, natural topicals, I think they all fall into that same category of different solutions for a problem that you may be having, trying to live a natural lifestyle or trying to just have a wellness or health journey. For a lot of athletes, I know they love the CBD products. And it's one of those things that I look at as if you can try something and it doesn't have any negative side effects and it's a natural ointment, how is there a downside versus you taking 8 Advil? Yeah. They literally would have us take 8 Advil for my knee hurt. I got hit in the knee. I got hit, or I got a bruise on the side of my leg. Now I should take 8 Advil versus I could possibly just use a natural ointment. I think those types of things are some of the solutions that should be at least available to people, and people should be educated around using those solutions over pharmaceutical solutions.
I mean, what are some of the new products that are kind of getting you excited? We talk a lot about nebulization, just a lot of different forms of intaking this. What are some of these new that you're like, fuck yeah, I really want to integrate this within Life Grows Green?
Sure. So, I mean, some of those, like, I'm really into bamboo products lately. So I'm really trying to work on the different kind of bamboo lineup that we're going to come out. I know we're coming out with fabrics, so sheets and sofa covers and pillows and different things like that. But I'm also into glassware, iron products. I really want to use my background in iron and iron casting and manufacturing to really come out with some natural lifestyle products. So we have some different design iron products, and then we're going to work in wood a lot. So coming out with some wooden products, working with some small batch artists, if you will, to design kind of unique wooden products, one of a kind wooden products that we can create. I think is probably the next things that are probably going to come out the pipeline first, if you will.
It's exciting. I love watching not just people chase what they're trying to do, right? I love hearing stories, what you've done with Kettlebell Kings, what you're doing with Life Goes Green. But I think it's hard sometimes. I find myself like, I don't do half of what you do right now, Chad Price from Life Goes Green. And I feel overwhelmed and busy sometimes chasing it on my own. And you sound way busier than me. And I got a wife and like 4 kids. And I'm always trying to figure out how to balance what I'm doing at home and trying to do and create new projects and create new income. How has that been for you, or how has that been for you? And maybe some suggestions, I guess, for people listening, like trying to balance the grind, chasing the grind. I got an early bird gets the worm and the late bird also gets the worm. Like they basically tell you both, like, got to be up early, got to stay up late, got to grind. Yeah. And then you get exhausted and then your family gets mad at you and you're trying to chase your dream, and it's becomes difficult to do. And I think when entrepreneurs, if we're going to get started, I think burnout is one of the early things, along with financial and people management, that helps them, because they believe they got to sacrifice their life, which is the exact opposite of what you're trying to do by starting your own company. You're trying to find this balance and rational income for yourself. How is it for you? And then like, how has it been in your journey, or what have you learned to help you balance business and pleasure, so to speak?
I mean, I think there's going to be hard times and easy times, so my background in sports kind of always gives me some kind of foundation of overcoming something. And, I think that's one of the things that has been a key concept in my life. So I look at business and things that are challenging as part of life. I almost wouldn't even want to do something if it wasn't challenging. I'm the type of person that just, if I could sit somewhere for 8 hours a day and you could pay me a lot of money and I just had to sit there, that would probably drive me insane. I would have to be working on something, trying to improve the world, trying to improve some concept, trying to improve a program, a system, a car, whatever it is. And so I think implementing kind of the core passions that I have into the businesses helps quite a bit. I am pretty passionate about fitness and health and wellness. So having a health and wellness company is easier to go to work every day and lift heavy things when you actually lift them at home. So that was one of the key concepts we learned when hiring for the warehouse. Don't hire someone who doesn't like to exercise, because you're going to be lifting every day.
You're literally lifting extra. It's a workout. It's basically a workout and a job at the same time. You're lifting workout equipment.
Yeah, exactly. So I think having those types of just self-awareness about who you are is probably the number one thing. Some people, you can stay up and you can work 16-hour days and it doesn't affect you. And then other people's, if you do that, you're going to put yourself and the company that you're starting into jeopardy. So I think really having the awareness to know where your limits are, how far you can push yourself, and then hiring help and building a good team around you to support where you can't is the key kind of advice that I would give anybody. I don't think one size fits all for anyone. I think we're all trying to figure out how we can be most efficient and, bring in the most resources for our friends and family that we can. So, I try to outwork everyone and get a little bit better every day, have perseverance, not really concern myself with, am I where I wanted to be, versus just kind of looking at it one step at a time and getting better along the way.
This is a slight segue to that, but has a lot of personal meaning to myself. You are a serial entrepreneur, multiple exits. I recently just exited from my company about 15, 16 months ago with a multi-year buyout, very similar. It has been an absolute struggle with this in-between time. I just exited. I'm not really sure what I want to do next, or where that next thing I'm going to start is going to be, or what problem I want to solve. And as someone who has exited multiple times successfully, I'm curious at what that process looks like to you. Day after the contract signs, do you kind of still have one foot in the door of the company to kind of keep you going a little bit in that in between time, or do you just wake up the next day and are like, what the heck can I have to do? What am I going to do with myself right now? I need to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you said I'm a serial entrepreneur, I didn't really realize how much I was until I started kind of running my own businesses. When I first started my first business, I actually started 2 businesses at once. So I'm just gonna do both. I just gotta do both. So I've always been that type of person. So there's a lot of overlap, and for me, it's more of allocating or shifting my resources from one to the other. But there is a lot of like a kind of a routine or closure that I try to bring to it. So if there is something that we've put together for Kettlebell Kings, for example, that was a 10-year event or a 10-year exercise that me and 2 of my friends from college put together. So we would try to have some type of meeting, some type of celebration, some type of kind of culminating everything, so that we do kind of formalize an end to it. I think it's the very same reason you have like a graduation from college or anything like that. You have to try to formalize an end to it and close that chapter and move on to another. So that'd be the only advice I can give. It's easier said than done. I still struggle sometimes with it right now. Like you say, I'm sure you do as well. But giving yourself other things to work on kind of fills that gap, or fills that void, if you will.
It just becomes that weird balance of working on things to make it meet, and then working on things to chase your dream. That's what I have found. I think Dustin and I both talk about this often. Like when you're in between projects, when we're in the middle of launching things and both of us doing other things as well, it becomes difficult to balance that. And I think, time management, obviously an underrated skill, but it's also, when people say, work on your time management skills, it's the same to me as telling someone who recently broke up with someone, time heals all wounds and there's other fish in the sea. Like, I know it hurts right now. You're not helping me. Right. And so when you're like running behind, I'm like, well, you work on your time management. But it's true, right? It is that thing. Do you have, or would you say, I'm gonna answer for you. I'm gonna go yes, given your athletic background. Do you find yourself to be very rigid with your time and management? Or are you more loose with how you like working off feel as you kind of work to balance what you're doing with Life Goes Green, creating these other companies, launching new products? How do you just set your day up? Are you schedule by schedule person, or are you more free flowing?
I definitely have a schedule, so I'm really strict on my calendar and trying to make sure that everything is on the calendar. I don't think if you don't have an organized calendar, I don't know how you get through your week, especially in modern times. But also I try to build the team together that can help me get through the day and get through projects faster. So I try not to put myself in a position where I'm restricting the team. I try to give the team as much autonomy as possible and set up systems that don't put me as the bottleneck, if you will. I cannot stand when I'm the bottleneck. I try to get myself out of that position as fast as possible. If I am the bottleneck in something, there's no way for me to avoid being the potential bottleneck, then I just handle that first. I think that's probably just some of the core concepts I use to make my schedule. But I use digital tools for every business that I run. So there's, I've spoken in Congress about, using digital tools to start and run a small brand or to small businesses. And I think using technology to automate as many processes as you can in your business will just allow you to have some general structure that you're required to be to, but then give you the freedom to really work on pushing the company forward, which I think is the main goal for, leadership in a company.
Everyone's probably sitting here right now listening and like, Chad, what did they say? What do you think they say? Like, you seem so well put together, Chad. What are people saying behind your back that you don't have together? I feel like it's gotta be something, man. Like, you got a great answer for everything. You're so like composed and smart. Some of it. What are your flaws, Chad? Tell us right now. Go.
I believe anything's possible. So, I'm the person that will take the shot for sure. I'm a risk taker for sure in life in general. I've always been the person, if someone has to go dive in head first into a hard situation, hey, it's me. I'll do it. I think that comes with ups and downs. And so in the same way I was talking about earlier with self-awareness, I'm big on therapy. I'm big on kind of understanding what your flaws are and building a team to catch your flaws. So, I try to have consultants I work with. I have vendors that I worked with for quite a long time that kind of check me or keep me in line whenever I'm, my personal flaws or my personal competitive nature gets in the way. I was giving you the example earlier about talking and directing the teams. Talking to my guys at the warehouse was nothing like talking to the girls at the nail salon. It's completely different mindset. And I didn't just have that coming out of college. I had to kind of develop that and speak with people about that, talk with people about delivering, communicating in a different way and different things like that. So I really do try to just continue to work on my flaws, and if it's something that I'm not good at, I outsource it. That's really what it boils down to.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying. If I can't figure it out, someone else to do it. It's been a real pleasure spending this time with you, Chad, getting to know you a little bit. It really is true. Like, I really have come away extremely impressed kind of with your mindset and your thought process when you think about what you're doing and where you're going. So thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Thank you for visiting us here on Because Cannabis. We really appreciate it. Chad Price, lifegrowsgreen.com. You can also go to chadprice.com, Instagram and Twitter, real Chad Price. And there you can find your links, get to where you need to go. Check out those face masks and those bath bombs. We're going to find those at lifegrowsgreen.com. We'll put some links below, by the way, in the comments. You can find those links that you're going to click after you hit subscribe. Thank you very much, Chad, for joining us. We appreciate your time on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was nice to meet you both.
All right, Dustin, it is another Because Cannabis in the books. We'll close that chapter up. Thank you, Chad Price from Life Grows Green, lifegrowsgreen.com, Kettlebell Kings, real Chad Price on Instagram. Thank you for joining us today on the show. Don't forget, give us a subscription. We definitely would appreciate that. A follow on Spotify or anywhere you listen to audio podcasts at Meet WM Socially. Dustin Kava, another great week. As always, thank you, man. Great to see you.
Thank you, brother. It's good seeing you, as always.